Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Mental Mondays, and thank you very much for joining us as part of the Mental Monday Club. Much appreciated. Today's conversation is we're going to talk a little bit about people that hear only what they want to hear, and sort of get into that a little bit, maybe talk about some of the causes of that and how to deal with those people sometimes because they can be difficult. And maybe if you are one of those people, maybe this can shed some light on it and sort of help you guys, get past that a little bit, because it is sort of a debilitating, activity that some people, actually a lot of people engage in to some extent. So anyway, we'll get into that here. I think that everybody out there probably knows somebody like this, or maybe if it depends to the extent of which one person only wants to hear or only hears what they want to hear, if they're even aware of it. And, one of the things about that is that this is a product of a lot of different things. A lot of it is a product of people's upbringing. It's a product of the people's peer group, and it's a product of identity. And one of the things about that is that the more people get set in a way of thinking, and specifically if they are just like what I said, if they're one of those type of people that bull up and only hear what they want to hear, their identity begins to form around that. And we'll talk about that time, and this is when it's very difficult. But I'll give you guys a prime example. I'll talk to you about it right off the bat. I got a person I know in my life that they only get their news from one channel. That's it. They love to sit around and watch the news, but they only get the news from one source. They don't even attempt to get it from anyone else. And that particular source that they get their news from, a lot of times it's fake news or false news, or it's incorrect news. And there's been many times that we'll be having a conversation and they'll make some statement and I'll go, no, that's not true. That's not the way it is. And I'll cite, various sources and give some factual information and back it up by some peer-reviewed, different sources in a wide range. And then I'll point out maybe some factual evidence on why what they just said is not true. And inevitably, they just bull up and say, that's just not true. I just don't believe that. It's that you're getting some bad information there. And this person does that because their identity is so connected to a specific belief system that the idea of acknowledging their own source of reality that they get, it's too painful for them to do that. So instead of seeing factual evidence laid out in front of them and saying, man, I didn't realize that, you're right here. I have not seen this information. They just, bull up against it and deny it. That's one extreme. But guys, there's a lot of people out there like that are in an information silo, to the extent that anything that counters that, anything that counters the viewpoint that they have based upon what they only want to believe, they just deny it completely. Even in the face of the reality. I mean, it could be something as obvious as, the earth being round, and, somebody will deny it's round and say it's flat. That's one extreme there. So the point of which, how can you deal with those people? And if you are one of those people, what can you do? First of all, when you are dealing with somebody that is so locked into a point of view or a belief system that they refuse to see any other way around it, that it is next to impossible to have a conversation with those people, or even to interact with those people once that comes up. Now, many times what will happen is you'll have a completely normal relationship with somebody until you hit a nerve. If you hit a nerve with them on one particular viewpoint they're locked into, then the entire interaction and relationship goes sour, simply because that is such an important viewpoint to them that they don't want that challenged, even if they're living in denial of a reality. This is more common than what you think, and it's gotten a lot more common specifically over the last 4 or 5 years. It's been rampant out there, what we've seen about this. So the first thing that you have to realize is that there's no winning trying to have a conversation or trying to convince somebody that is locked into a viewpoint that they just don't want to see around. It's sort of like my buddy uses the analogy. He goes, Randy, you can't argue with those people. It's like wrestling a greased pig. He goes, nobody's going to win, and you're just going to get dirty. You're just going to get dirty trying. So it's futile to try to enter any type of debate or argument with somebody that is so locked into a way of thinking that they discredit or just refuse to acknowledge any of their viewpoints. So my advice to that would be to just don't even engage in those people out there, because some people they're living in such a denial of reality that you can't break through that barrier. And some people would rather live in denial of reality than to face reality, simply because of the pain associated with that. And a lot of it, like I said, has to do with an identity crisis. I mean, because you got to think about it. If you say, for example, you have a certain way of thinking, and you feel like your identity is connected to that certain way of thinking, and if that identity is threatened, that most people can't deal with that. Most people can't deal with their entire identity and viewpoint of life being threatened, where they have to reconstruct it. So that's painful. Now, that's one extreme out there. Most people, for example, they're sort of in the middle ground there. Most people live in a reality that they have viewpoints on life, and they have things they gravitate towards, how they get their information, and it's a little bit diverse. They have more of a diversity in information that they're assimilating in their mind. And if they're able to have actually a civil debate and a conversation, and even more so, if somebody brings some factual information to them, they can say, well, man, I didn't know that. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't, the information I was getting was not correct, and I can see this as, sort of the way it is. So that's the healthy way to do it. I think that most people function within those parameters. And then, obviously, as the older a person gets, the more they get locked into it. Because when somebody's a teenager and in their 20s and stuff like that, they're sort of still in their formative years. And unless they're around a peer group that is exposing them to nothing except one particular way of thought and one way of thinking, then most people have the ability to want to formulate their own viewpoints based upon the information that they're getting from the world around them. And that's a healthy thing to do. I think one of the biggest things that we need to encourage on this planet is education, and getting people as educated as possible, because the more education and the more information that you get, the better you are able to assimilate that information and make choices for yourself that sort of create your own, viewpoint of reality out there. And you simply can't do that from one source, because there are some universal truths on this planet. I mean, in my opinion, the universal truths are kindness, compassion, empathy, caring, love, all that type of stuff. Those are universal truths. And everything else that we have are exposed to in our life, there's some agenda behind that to some extent. Now, sometimes those agendas can be used for good things, and sometimes those agendas can be used for not so good things, and everything in between. So I think one of the things out there, if you're one of those people that are offended when somebody challenges you, not challenges you, but when somebody offers you a countering point of view, and one of the things you can try, instead of just digging your heels in, just listen to them. Listen to what they're saying and try to understand their viewpoint. How did they come to that viewpoint? If they've got a particular way of thinking, give the other person the respect to hear that out, and then you can have a civil, respectful debate on it. And I think the thing that's healthy is if you have one topic that you're in disagreement of, and you enter that disagreement with respect and, you know, just respect for the other person's point of view without trying to degrade them or make them feel bad or, you know, calling them stupid or whatever like that, that goes a long way into improving the human condition with that. And it also goes a long way into either, you know, strengthening your own viewpoints or maybe reconstructing those viewpoints. And don't feel like it's a bad thing if you've got something that you've believed forever, and you've gotten that belief system because you've been exposed to just a very limited amount of information to allow you to form that viewpoint, and then all of a sudden you're exposed to a lot of different factors that counter that viewpoint. It's okay to say, man, you know, I wasn't right with that. I was wrong with this. I need to reconsider my position on this. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's called improving yourself or change for the better. But I tell you, one of the most frustrating things, guys, if you get into a conversation with one of those people that are so locked into their point of view that they're unable to have a conversation with, that is like extremely frustrating to be a part of that. And I see it more rampant now than ever. One of the things about that is like I didn't see this hardly at all up until about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. It's like before that, I never got in any conversations with anybody, or I never heard anybody talking about anything that you know, people that are so locked in to believe in one way, they don't want to see beyond that. You just didn't see that a little bit. But for whatever reason, our society has morphed into that direction, which is not a positive thing. It's actually an extremely negative thing. It's sort of a dumbing down of society to a large degree. So anyway, like I said, my advice to the thing is, if you get one of those people out there that just see only what they want to see in this world, and they are dug in and bowled up about it, just stay away from it. Just don't even go there. Don't even waste your time, because you're not gonna change somebody's mind. Somebody that is living in a very complex denial of reality, you're not going to change them. They're not going to change. I mean, it's not going to happen. But at the same point, if you're one of those people out there that have the ability to see both ways a little bit, and you may be leaning in one direction, you know, just take time to be open-minded, and you know, truth and facts are never a bad thing. You know, scientific evidence, truth, facts, you know, logic, critical thinking, those are all good things, you know, in the human experience, and they should not be feared, and they should not be swept under the carpet, because it just makes for a better world for all of us to live in, you know, once we adopt that way of thinking a little bit. So anyway, hope that makes sense, guys. Thanks for tuning into the video this week, and we'll see you guys next week with another Mental Monday. See you.